Hey, with Eldor's Chess, and today I have a nice video of David Navara versus Anish Giri at the 2018 Shamkir contest. So he is playing a Caro-Kann, which is not popular at the pro level. At the highest level, I think I'm talking about top 20 players of the world. They like their Berlins and their Rui Lopez's or the Sicilians, but Caro-Kann is also a viable option against e4. And we have a very standard Caro-Kann with the short variation where white doesn't put the bishop on d3. So this is kind of, in my opinion, very sharp because the pawn structure is asymmetrical, very different pawn structure. So there's not a lot of symmetry, and all the pieces stay on the board. If you play, for instance, bishop d6, then you would always black would already exchange their bishops, and it would be less pieces on the board. But in this variation, there's a lot of tension, and David Navara, who regularly goes for very sharp lines, like the Najdorf in my previous video, now he goes again for this crazy line, and it is this crazy line. It's with queen to b6. It puts pressures on the center and puts pressure on the b2 pawn. And is this pawn poisoned? Yes or no? In general, most people don't take the pawn because there's lots and lots of variations. Like, for instance, let's say for this, you think you have a free knight. No, you're losing because you're losing your queen because white has just too much development. You also spend two moves in the Caro-Kann. You kind of lose the tempo because you paid two times your c pawn, and you're kind of behind in development. So it's only natural to not take the pawn because there's even like knight b5, and there are loads and loads of very very complicated ideas. Like, for instance, knight a6 loses because then there's c4, and for the engine says the only good move is c4 in this position. But if you just play natural moves, then in my opinion, it's there's so many development. It's not worth one pawn for it, and especially with your queen early out, it's kind of a weakness because now the disadvantage of this opening for the Caro-Kann is it's very sharp. It gives very creative play, but on the other hand, your queen maybe in middle game will become kind of chased away all time, and you lose a lot of tempo. So I wouldn't play this myself, but that's why I'm analyzing this game. I would play just a very more normal move like knight d7, but playing this is goes for very sharp games, and that's why I like the David Navara. So it continues, and now we have knight a4, giving a check because you don't want white to win that pawn. And here we have another kind of very cool position because Anish Giri could have castled, or there's many things, but like knight a4 is kind of forced. So he wants to have this kind of structure, and you can see it is the queen protects the knight, and it's just very solid for white. I think it's very risk-free. All the pieces are still on the game, the 4 minor pieces and the 3 heavy pieces. It's very sharp, but white has a very stable at a little bit more center space. But black also have counterplay, but it's just like like a kind of built like a French with the bishop out. It's very the center is very close, so a lot of action is going to be at the flanks. So we can see when they exchange, the center is kind of no pawn breaks, f6, but you probably don't want to play it because then your king becomes really weak, and it's white has a really safe king. So you're gonna see here that Anish Giri just goes for queenside activity, queenside play, and now he takes advantage of David Navara's queen moves because he put the queen here, he gave a check, now he should go back, and now his rook is aligning the queen. And this doesn't look dangerous for black because this rook, there's a pawn and a knight between it, but you have to remember the b pawn can always be pushed, and white wants to break on c4 anyway because here he has a weakness. Okay, and you can see on the king side, it's also gonna push his pawns, but he has big play on both sides of the game. So, and his king is castled, and his pieces are already developed. Black is not castled; it's no problem because the center is closed. But I think in this position it's kind of uncomfortable for black. I think white has a lot of plans, and black has to be very precise to get the draw. And maybe in the end game is slightly better because of the pawn structure, but I think Anish really has a solid position, and David Navara, he can't not really target the weaknesses. So it's a kind of a passive position where he has to play very precise, which is just enough for Anish Giri because he's so good. Okay, now he goes for a kingside attack. His king is safe here. All his pieces are kind of passive. They're good on good squares, but normally you cannot just push g4. But in a Caro-Kann, this white bishop is just kind of like how do you say it? Like like the bayonet attack is kind of it's kind of normal to push your pawns like this. In normal opening it's not normal, but in a Caro-Kann it's very normal idea because just look, white opens up his king, and you would say, oh, it's very weakening, but it's black who's in trouble. Not in trouble, but like black doesn't have any counter-attacking chance to attack the checkmate the white king. So I think a lot of people maybe would be surprised, but it's a very normal plan. And now Anish Giri improves his last piece. So here there's only one piece that's not active. So in chess you always want to develop your least active piece if you don't know what to do. So, and if you take, then yeah, there's just so much space advantage for white, and this bishop looks good, but it can be traded off, and also at the moment there's nothing really. If there was a queen here or more pieces maybe, but for now this bishop looks good, but it doesn't really have any function at the moment. Blacks want to chip away at the queenside pawns. Anish Giri goes for bishop d3, just having more. The queen is now eyeing more. This is more pressure, and black cannot exchange pieces. So here you can see David Navara kind of exchanging pieces, and I will put the engine on. Like engine says it's equal, but it's, I don't know. It's let's say I want the castle. It's already +2, so I don't like this position for black because how do you say, structurally I like it, but I think the development for white is so big that even though like in a Sicilian Khan, the big question is, has white overextended itself? And normally I would say yes, but you're just too slow with white. So um, a bit with black. Normally, I'm not a fan of too ambitious play, just going crazy with your king pawns. But white is so much up in development. His pieces are so well replaced, and black is not castled and very kind of passive. And there's so many ideas on the king side, on the queen side. The rook is here, rook is eyeing the queen. That for me it's very uncomfortable. I would rather be white here. So black goes for counterplay, and Anish just retreats, exchanges pieces to have more. When you're down in space, you want to exchange pieces, and here the engine says that taking wasn't a good idea because now you cannot castle anymore, I think. So maybe it was better just to castle, but then you run to b5. So, oh yeah, and there's also an important trick. You cannot go for this because then you can. White has a tactic. You have to take the knight, or you lose a piece, and then you has like this again. You have to sacrifice your knight because, or you sacrifice your knight for a pawn. So even though this rook, it was brilliantly placed by Anish Giri, even though there were many pieces between the Starov, between the rook and the queen, you still had the idea. So now this bishop is kind of misplaced because the knight can take it every time, and there's this b5. So I understand David Navara, and he kind of goes for this plan. And here David Navara has a crazy move. I don't think a lot of people would play knight a5. Maybe if they had to play it because there's no other options, and then white can play this. But in my opinion, it doesn't look good. Engine says is equal, but it looks very poor for black, in my opinion, because this bishop comes to d6. You cannot castle. Maybe I'm not judging right, but yeah, Engine says it's almost equal, but I think it's very hard to play for a human. I don't think any GM would take black here. Maybe they like the counter-attacking chances of black and this nice bishop. Maybe it's not as bad as I think, but David Navarre plays the losing move, so he lost his game. Bishop c2, and I think David Navarre overlooked the tactic. He probably thought, okay, takes, okay, and then if you take with the queen, I go here, and you cannot take because you lose a queen. So he thought, okay, this is a brilliant move. I just go here. Maybe I was in time trouble, but Anish just played b6. That reminds me of a game he played against his first win against Magnus at the Tata Steel, 2011. Deflection tactic, where you, not deflection, but in between move, Swiss and Zouk. You just, okay, you are threatening my queen, I threaten your queen, because if you take, I take, and you cannot allow to take again, because then I just make a queen and you lose the game. So this is a really nice move. This also would have worked at a later stage of the game, but I think b6, I think it's a very pragmatic move, and in this position, white resigned the game because, yeah, there's nothing else to do. It's just over. So you cannot really take it, because after it takes, you can, if you move your queen, you lose your piece, and you cannot castle, and so on. So in hindsight, where did Navarro go wrong? If I'm being honest, I think it's very difficult to say, but I think he didn't go wrong necessarily at one move. Maybe the critical move was taking the knight on c5 and later on not playing knight a5. But if you have to find a5, then it's already very difficult. I would say uh, the problem were like engine draws, but I think this position is so difficult. So this is a Caro-Kann gone bad, but he has also good games in the Caro-Kann. So it's nothing against the opening, but I think just a lot of moves didn't work out, and then all the tactics worked for Anish Giri. So this is a beautiful game between those two, and I hope you enjoyed the video.